Here we go. With a right-wing majority wielding power on the Supreme Court, the U.S. is on the cusp of a total rollback of federal abortion rights. This spring, many of us were shocked by a leaked court opinion laying out as much, but we should not have been. Advocates have been telling us in no uncertain terms for decades that this was our likely future without congressional action. What can elected officials, advocates, and everyday people do to protect each other from the misogyny and violence of the far right and its obsession with controlling the lives of women and pregnant people? There is no one single answer, but rather a multitude of actions that each of us can take to refuse to be dragged backward. And that is why we are here tonight. I'm joined by Lily Bolourian, an Iranian American political organizer, writer, and strategist who lives in Germantown. She holds a master's in health law and policy from Hofstra School of Law, and she is the executive director of Pro-Choice Maryland and Pro-Choice Maryland Action, two of the most powerful pro-choice advocacy organizations in the state. I couldn't be more excited to have such a timely person here with us tonight. Lily, thanks for being here.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having this conversation. Like you said, it could not be more timely or important for us to be talking about this. So thank you for shedding a light.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking about some of the big issues on abortion access in the state tonight. But I know that, like we were talking about before we started here, a lot of folks just want to know, like, put me to work. What can I do? So we're going to leave plenty of time to talk about that as well. And we'll take some questions from folks who are watching us live. Thanks to everybody who joined us for this conversation. Let's start here. You know, yes, we're having a very tough time at the federal level. We did have one big victory in the state of Maryland in this past legislative session, and that was the Abortion Access Act. So talk to us a bit about what that act does and what's going to be changing a month from today when it goes into effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Abortion Care Access Act is truly the most substantial abortion rights legislation we've seen in about 30 years. That's my whole lifetime. That's honestly part of the problem. But I am so overjoyed that our leadership, from Delegate Ariana Kelly to Speaker Jones, that they got together, realized the importance of the threat. This was before the leak came out. They recognized, as you said, the leak threw us for a loop in that I did not think, you know, even though I don't have a positive view of this court, I did not know that they wanted to go as far as Alito had made it clear. And that's very concerning. And so when it comes to the Abortion Access Act, it's really important to kind of understand that prior to abortion becoming legal in this country and in Maryland, there were a bunch of, so to speak, random people offering abortion services, people who were not qualified to do so, people who were just trying to take money. And a lot of people got really sick and some people died. And so Maryland legislators took it upon themselves to say that only a physician can offer an abortion in Maryland. That sounds good, and it was for the time, but it's super outdated now. Our understanding, our knowledge of abortion has changed so much. So the Abortion Access Act, it allows for advanced practice clinicians, those are nurse practitioners, nurse midwives, to provide abortion care. A lot of these folks already have this training because Maryland has really outdated laws. A lot of other states already allow this. So a lot are traveling to other states to do this care. So they have the knowledge. So come July 1st, they have the legal right to practice abortion in Maryland. And that is huge in a state where 2/3 of our counties don't have a single clinic. But how convenient would it be for you to go to your own nurse practitioner who you've known forever and be able to get an abortion from them? That is just the epitome of access. Someone so close to you, someone who you can trust. And it should be, of course, no cost. And we'll get to that at one point. But the Abortion Care Access Act is a landmark law, and it provides And to be clear, it was passed by the General Assembly and vetoed by Governor Hogan. And then they had to override his veto to get this into law. So this wasn't, moderate Larry Hogan did not support this because moderate Larry Hogan does not exist. So that is to say that $3.5 million were put aside in this bill to train new providers who don't necessarily have abortion providing experience, train them into doing so. And Larry Hogan, in his infinite knowledge, infinite wisdom, has decided to withhold this money. It's undemocratic. It's strange. I mean, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. But regardless, we will get this training money. Larry Hogan, no matter what happens, will be out of office in January, and we will get this money and we will get folks trained. But it's really important to note that folks who already have this knowledge, come July 1st, they can provide abortions, and that's going to expand access dramatically.
It's a very modest sum for a state budget, too. We're not talking about a large amount of money at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
I heard a comment from Delegate Kelly that I think is also worth mentioning here, which is some of the fear mongering we heard from Hogan and from Republican opponents of the bill was this is about protecting women. We don't want women getting abortions from unqualified people. And so it's important for folks to know that, some of the loudest advocates for this bill were OBGYNs, like the people who currently provide abortion services are the ones who are saying we need this for our state. It's completely safe. They say, like, take your medical advice from your doctor, not a politician. The doctors are speaking loud and clear about this. Another thing that you made me think of also is, those of us who had experiences trying to protect people seeking abortion services at, specific clinics that provide those services. I've done that, for years in North Carolina. I know folks do that in Maryland as well. The idea that you could have a system where people could get abortion services from their own healthcare practitioners, was there any thought put into how that may make it a lot less frightening for people seeking those services and a lot more difficult for these like hardcore misogynistic protesters who assault people outside of clinics, as they do today? Was that part of the thinking behind this bill?
I hope so. I think it was. I think that it will very clearly make it so that more people are able to provide abortions. So abortion providers are not so targeted, or not so clear. There will always exist, for example, Maryland has some of the best laws when it comes to allowing for later abortion care. So there will always be specialty clinics that provide that type of care. And that will operate the way that they do. And as you said, they will always be the constant center of just harassment. And it's really bad. I used to work in later abortion care. It's no joke. And so, yes, I think that it will make a huge difference if you don't have to make such a thing of it. If you can simply make an appointment to see your doctor, or your nurse practitioner, because a lot of folks see nurse practitioners and that's a very common person that folks use for family medicine. So being able to see someone like that and getting it done, it will definitely take away not just the fear, but I think also the stigma that's attached to it. Like you go in, you get your birth control, and you also get your abortion from your provider.
Yeah. That's a really exciting achievement. I think it definitely helps to start, from a place of remembering that we have power in Maryland. There's a lot we can do. This is not a lost cause by any stretch.
No.
But with that in mind, let's dig in a little bit to, in Maryland right now, what is the state of abortion access generally, and maybe more to the point, how should we expect that to change, if at all, if and when this, Supreme Court opinion is officially handed down?
Yeah. So I think that when we talk about this, I think there's a couple buckets that it really is in. First is the question of legal abortion. And that's to mean that does our on the books do our laws say essentially that we will allow or bar state interference from someone seeking an abortion? And the answer to that is yes. We did have a 1992 referendum, and it passed overwhelmingly. I think it was over 60% of the vote. It was super popular, and that's a really big deal. And so that is basically, what folks like to rest kind of their belief that we are safe legally is on that. And I love that. And I do believe that we are in the immediate future safe legally when it comes to abortion. Now, when it comes to accessing abortion, we're in trouble. And I say that because we are a state that has good abortion laws, which means that we are a state where folks who are fleeing from red states or states who have hostile abortion laws are going to want to come more and more to Maryland clinics. We're already seeing, anecdotally at clinics, much longer wait times, and abortion is still the law of the land. Roe is still the law of the land. We're already seeing this increase. So it's critical that we get these 3.5 million so we can get folks trained up, because it is going to be impossible for any of us to predict what our load is going to look like, and also just what the landscape's going to look like in red states, and honestly, and how far the Supreme Court chooses to go. I say that in the immediate future, we are safe legally, but it's important to note that this Supreme Court is tainted in the worst of ways. They are a far right body, and they intend to go back and to change things that we completely have taken for granted and things that we wouldn't even think about. So it would not surprise me if the Supreme Court took on a personhood case at some point and then said that a fertilized egg has the same rights as any other human being, according to them. That would, because of the way our governmental structure is formed, that would trump, so to speak, that would trump our laws in Maryland. Because if we're saying that the state can't interfere with this, but they're saying that these are, fertilized eggs are human beings, that comes into conflict. So I don't think that even on the legal side, folks should not be like sitting back thinking that we're good and there's nothing to worry about, because this court is dangerous.
There were some sort of more far-reaching options explored in the legislature this past session that didn't pass. The Pregnant Persons Freedom Act and HB 1171, which was the constitutional amendment effort led by Speaker Jones in the House. Talk to us about those options, and do those give us anything further that we can work with a radical right-wing court like we've got trying to assault abortion rights?
Yeah, I mean, so the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act is a really important law that, unfortunately, the anti-abortion side, they got a hold of it and they ran their outrage machine, and it spooked a lot of people. But I'm going to just be 1000% honest about what this bill is. This bill decriminalizes pregnancy outcomes. That means that currently the Maryland Criminal Code has it written that it could be interpreted such a way that a state's attorney or a district attorney could charge someone for self-managing their abortion, or even potentially for using drugs and inducing abortion in a time where we are controlling pregnancies. So the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act is not this like ridiculous pie in the sky thing. This is a very, very critical issue in our criminal code. And we can't just rely on the fact that we usually have pretty good liberals in charge of things. That's not a sustainable strategy. What happens if we lose control of the General Assembly and the State House? These are all things that we have to be prepared for in our laws at any point. So that it was really shameful, in my opinion, that that bill did not make it really anywhere. And that was because of the right-wing outrage machine that convinced folks that this was something to do with infanticide. But that's what they say about literally everything. So like, folks should just know that. And then the next one is HB 1171. And that one was brought forward by Speaker Jones. And that was just a very basic constitutional amendment that declared the right to reproductive liberty. It would have just codified anything that we're concerned about having to do with any holes in the 1992 referendum. It was controversial. It passed in the House. Inexplicably, it chilled in the Senate and it did not become law. I don't know the reasoning for that, and I don't accept it. It is unconscionable that we did not pass that. And I beg you to ask your elected officials to take that up next session and not to listen to the right-wing machine, and to give us a call at Pro-Choice Maryland if you have any questions on how to talk about the right-wing machine. So those two bills were really critical. We had a really good opportunity there. And unfortunately, I think we missed it.
I mean, let's spill a little more tea here, because I find it so odd that you've got the Speaker of the House of Delegates. I mean, this was not, forget just a popular bill. This was a bill that had supportive leadership that I don't think it was even put into a committee in the Senate. I mean, I think they just fully sat on it.
Right.
Are you saying that there's been no public explanation for that at all? Like no clue as to why that happened?
I have not seen a public explanation for it, nor have I heard a private explanation for it. I've just heard a general concept that the General Assembly only has the stomach to pass one abortion-related law per session. And that's
even in a context where we knew that the court was going to take up repealing Roe.
Yep. Even in that context, apparently there's this unspoken rule that has come from years of capitulation to, I think, people who might even be Democrats, but who are not in support of abortion rights. So, yeah.
Okay. But then also like that unspoken rule doesn't even seem to have applied in the House. Like the House passed it.
Correct. Right. Right. Okay. The House saw the need and the importance, but you're absolutely right. In the Senate, they wanted to, I don't know.
Because it's the same constituency.
It's the same
they all represent the same people. Okay.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I would love a statement on why it did not pass or even get heard.
I'm surprised that nobody would have shared something with you about Okay. All right. Well, then, so there you have it, folks. Legislatively, the next frontier before us. To me, I think, obviously I'm locked in the middle of a race myself here. And so I'm talking to a lot of voters and hearing about this from people, and people are they want to know what is the strongest thing that we can do to protect abortion rights. We can't rest on our laurels in a state where we're consistently electing anti-choice Republicans to the governor's office. These are not, like you say, these are not moderate Republicans. There's no, decades ago, I hesitate to even call Republicans from decades ago moderate Republicans, but at least decades ago, you could find some Republicans who were, more moderate on this issue, and that's gone. It's totally gone. Larry Hogan is like the standard bearer for so-called moderates. And here he is nickel and diming a clearly beneficial law that's protecting women's health in the state because he wants to run for president. And he knows that you can't run for president as a Republican unless you are hardcore anti-abortion. So that the fact that we would be sitting in that situation and then let chances to pass good laws pass us by because it's like not the tradition of the chamber, I think is really something else.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's shift gears one more time. We're going to get back into what we can do because, where those opportunities are gone, but new ones are always coming up. You already mentioned, talking to your senators and your delegates, everybody who's with us tonight, who's watching the live stream, about bringing these bills back. Again, the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act and HB 1171, which will have a new bill number in a new session, but that can be your point of reference when you talk to folks, sending an email, making a phone call. It's election season. These folks want your vote. They want to, at least go through the motions of listening to you, right? So this is a good time to contact people and say, I'm watching Roe v. Wade get torn apart on the national stage, and I want to know that you're doing everything you possibly can to protect it. So I absolutely do recommend everybody do that. And I think, does Pro-Choice Maryland, do you all offer talking points or a way to contact officials through anything that you have? Like, what do you recommend folks do there?
We don't have an official way. We're kind of like in flux when it comes to that stuff. But we are always happy to, if anyone has any kind of specific questions, always feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help curate people's messages. But we will soon have a petition for Larry Hogan to release the funds. So you can look out for that.
Great. And then the next thing is we can get down even to the county level. There are things that county officials could do. Talk to us a bit about what that looks like and what we should be asking county officials for.
Absolutely. I think that this is really critical because I think that there's this idea, and a lot of elected officials on the local level will make you feel this way, that local leaders can't do too much when it comes to this. And I really disagree. And I think that, I really appreciate the initiative that County Executive Mark Elrich has taken, in which he wants to, it has been fully formed exactly where the money will go, but he wants to give $1 million to organizations that basically improve abortion access. And that can be clinics, that can be nonprofits. This is the type of things that we need, because the good news that I have amid all of this disaster is that we do have a very well organized practical support network in Maryland. The Baltimore Abortion Fund is amazing. They are part of a national structure of funds, and they help to coordinate rides for out-of-state patients and in-state patients. They help, they work with an organization called the Bridget Alliance that helps to find places for folks to live, to stay during their procedures while they recover. This is the type of stuff that we need to be doing. So the government should be shifting its resources to these organizations that already know what they're doing. There's no need to reinvent the circle or the wheel. There's no need to, run a program or create something that will take years to perfect when there are organizations ready to go. They're just ill-resourced. So I implore everyone to ask for your local leaders to consider giving appropriations to the Baltimore Abortion Fund, to independent abortion clinics, to nonprofits that you see doing direct work, helping folks get abortions and helping to educate folks. That's the way to go when it comes to that. So
Great.
Yeah.
And for those of us who live in Montgomery County and already see some movement happening here, you had also recommended getting involved directly with practical services. Can you talk a bit about that? What does that look like? What are some recommendations you might have for folks for how they can be involved?
Sure. Yeah. The Baltimore Abortion Fund, they help to get folks connected with patients who need rides. Often they need to be picked up from the airport. Sometimes it's from another friend's house. Sometimes it's just taking them to the clinic and then to a friend's house. Sometimes it's taking from the clinic to a hotel. But Baltimore Abortion Fund works really hard to coordinate all of that, to ensure that the patients are safe, to ensure that they're taken care of, and they're mostly volunteer based. So anyone who has a car, or an extra room in their home with a bathroom, there are things that you can do to help people directly getting abortions. And I really, really recommend our friends at the Baltimore Abortion Fund. I know Baltimore is in their name, but they serve the whole state and they are an excellent organization. And I really, really strongly recommend that folks who want to hit on the ground work, who want to provide direct help to patients, go that route and support the Baltimore Abortion Fund. Our organization, my day job, I work for Pro-Choice Maryland. We spend a lot of our time, especially now the election's happening, phone banking for pro-abortion candidates, canvassing for them. We just put out our first round of endorsements. And so, that's another organization folks can feel free to contact me and get involved in. We're always looking for volunteers. There's always something for you to do. And if there isn't, if you can't find something for you to do, make it, create it. But I'm telling you, most of the time, you don't even have to do that. You can just reach out to networks and you'll get connected with like-minded people. But if you're one person and you're living on the Eastern Shore and you can't find a buddy, I guarantee that you can contact us and we will help you to create that network, because there are
Lily,
people.
what's your website? Where can people learn more?
Yeah. So hit prochoicemd.org is the organization's website. And then I will check on my email in the chat. Maybe
you can, but since this is going on Facebook
okay.
and we're recording and stuff, it's good just to have the info in the video so people can get it. So prochoicemd.org. That's where you can get information. This is the organization that is making it happen in Maryland. So if you have that time set aside to phone bank, care about this issue, I'm gonna pump you up a little more, Lily. Like, y'all need to go make some calls with Pro-Choice Maryland. It's important.
Thank you very much.
So get out there and do it. Lily, thank you so much for giving us what we can do. It's really important that we not lose hope, we don't get scared, we don't get pushed around by the bullies on the right. They put on the fancy robes and they go sit in the court and pass down their verdicts, and then the people act, right?
That's
so
right.
There's a lot we can do. There's a lot that we need to do. I'm glad you're here to share that with us. We do have a few questions that got put in the chat.
Awesome.
That I'll ask you in just a moment here. Anybody who's watching with us live, you're welcome to chat us a question here while I get to the first one. We have several comments as well. I'm going to skip those, but thank you for sharing.
I hope they're nice, at least.
They are. So here's one question. I had this as well. When it comes to these direct service organizations, you call it practical support organizations like Baltimore Abortion Fund, is there anything that the state can be doing in terms of appropriating funds for these kinds of organizations? Has that been done? Is it being done? What does that look like?
The state absolutely can. I have not seen that be done. I would love for that to be done. I think that requires some courage and boldness, which a lot of our elected officials say that they have, especially around this issue. And I would love to see that in action. But to right now, no, there is no appropriation, but it could be. There could be.
And do you know if any of these organizations or organizations like yours have put that forward as an ask, looking to see if a state official would take that on, or has that just not been sort of broached?
I can't speak for the Baltimore Abortion Fund, and I'm actually pretty new to this organization, so I really, I'm probably not the right person to ask about that. To be fair.
Okay, got it. Okay. Any other questions from our live? Oh, we do have one. Are there things that our state can do to form formal partnerships with abortion hostile states to provide services to people in other states?
Yes, that's a great question. So the National Network of Abortion Funds has essentially created this network, and especially in the red states, of several different funds who have pledged that regardless of laws, they're going to help people get their abortions. And so Baltimore Abortion Fund being part of that network is a lot of brain sharing that's happening. And so I think that's like one really good thing that I really want people to rest assured about, is that there really is a coordinated effort. It just needs more resources. And I'll say also, while we're on this topic, our organization, Pro-Choice Maryland, it used to be part of NARAL, but we left that organization beginning of this year because of a lot of reasons, but they disaffiliated all state affiliates. And so now we're part of a state affiliate network, where what we do is we work with several of the former affiliates. There's about 13 of us now, 13 states, where we brain share about policy. We kind of talk through best practices so that we're not having to reinvent the wheel, kind of like best policy practices, best, organization practices. So we are forming that. It's still young, but we are working really hard to grow that. We're hoping to be with 50 states. But I would say that the National Network of Abortion Funds is a really, really great place to start. And if there's a special state that you particularly like, particularly have an affinity towards, that's a red state that's in trouble, search for them on the NNAF website, and you'll find several funds that could really, really use your support.
That's great. You made me also wonder, the right has been much more effective in coordinating state legislative action state to state through their various umbrella organizations. And I know that progressives have tried to do that in a couple of different modalities. This may not be something that you're paying close attention to, but it makes me wonder if an organization like Local Progress has like an abortion rights portfolio or something that they're working on. It seems like an ideal, just a way to support the elected officials who want to be taking more serious action on this, to support them as well. But I don't know if that's true or not.
I'm not particularly familiar.
We're getting one more question in here. Are there local or state efforts to make Plan C more accessible or raise awareness about it? I have to admit, I don't know what Plan C is.
Yeah, can we have, is it possible to have Kristen unmute?
Yeah, Kristen, you want to unmute and chat?
I would love to hear her explain it to folks.
Maybe I need to unmute you. Ask to unmute. All right, looks like we don't have Kristen unmuting.
Okay. Okay, basically what I think Plan C is what some people refer to as a self-managed abortion. Basically means to have an abortion at home. It can be with pills. There can be other ways, but the method that we're mostly aware of and most people talk about is self-managed abortion. So are there local or state efforts to make this? Well, I will say that that is a campaign that we are working to build at Pro-Choice Maryland, is specifically around self-managed abortion. There are a lot of national organizations who do that work, but we believe that we need some more direct education for folks on the ground here. So that's a really excellent question and an excellent point. And something that we definitely need to have more conversations about. And it's part of why the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act is so important, because it kind of handles, what would happen if an individual does do a self-managed abortion, and whether or not the government can choose to prosecute them for that. And so that's one more reason, one more endorsement for the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act, I would say. Thank you for the question, Kristen.
That's great. Apologies about my unmuting difficulty, but that's great. And I was wondering about that, especially because I know in doing I'm an organizer by day, and in doing some coalition work around this, one of the things that we've talked about recently is how we kind of want to steer clear of like the coat hanger imagery and that sort of thing, because it's just not necessary, anymore. I mean, in many cases, it can be replaced with, surgical could be replaced with self-medicated abortions. And so helping to raise awareness about that and lifting like legal restrictions as much as possible seems like a really important piece of this, and maybe a relatively easier piece of this than some of the other things that we could do.
Definitely. That's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah.
I
And
know
think
that, I'm sorry, Lily.
I think that part of the coat hanger imagery, the part of the problem with it is it just brings unnecessary fear onto people. Yes, everyone is well aware that there were people who had to go to such terrible lengths to have abortions. But we live in a time now where most people who are having illegal abortions are self-managing them in ways that are actually not unsafe, even if they're not necessarily legal. So that's really critical knowledge, especially in states where abortion laws are more hostile. It's just a really important thing to think about. And it's part of what we had in mind with the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act, was making sure that criminalization is taken out of the picture.
Thanks for that question, Christian. Thanks for joining us from your car, looks like. Okay, we have one more question. Did the Maryland State Attorneys Association take a position on the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act?
I do not recall them taking a position. Not that many people did. I don't want to be wrong on this, so please don't quote me, but I don't remember them. Yeah, unfortunately, most of the testimony was from the right because it became a national issue. Like if you Google it, they talk about like Senator Smith wanting to just do terrible things to children. It's really bad. Like, so a lot of national groups came and ascended on Annapolis and, annoyed our legislatures. A lot of folks who don't live here, but who are really loud and scary. Those are the folks, unfortunately, who took the microphone on that bill.
All right, another good reminder that we need to be involved in when these bills come up. Folks.
Can I ask more question? Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
Thanks. And I apologize if this was already answered. I was wondering if there is organizing happening right now to pressure Hogan to release the funds for training abortion care providers, because I would love to go be angry at Hogan and cope with folks. And it seems like he should be right for being pressured. I mean, if he wants to come across as a moderate so that he can run for president later, then I would think that he would not want a bunch of publicity about him being anti-choice.
Totally. Yeah. So this was addressed we had a event on May 14th in Baltimore. We did talk about this on the stage there. We do have a campaign incoming that I mentioned a little bit earlier. That's a petition drive to directly, first of all, to get a bunch of numbers on how many people are against Hogan. Difficulty with mobilizing around like directly at him is that he's really hard to find. He has multiple houses. He goes on vacation a lot. He's not often at the State House. We thought about having actions at the State House, but it not just for optics. We would like it to be very annoying and disruptive to him. So we absolutely are not going to let this go because it's just ridiculous and undemocratic, if that still matters. But that's currently been a little bit of a logistical issue with is finding Larry Hogan. He likes to go to Ocean City. He likes to go. He's just things that I don't get to do, that we don't get to do. But and hey, if I could find out where he likes to hang out in Ocean City, I don't mind to meet him there. I love the beach, but so far we have not been successful in figuring out the best way to target him. But Kristen, please send us an email if you have any ideas. I'm all ears.
All right. Lily, thanks so much for taking all this time with us. Thanks everybody for joining us live with all these great questions. We got our marching orders. There's a lot to do. Let's get out there and do it. And with that, I am going to stop our recording.